So there's a new report that just dropped. NSA spying is even worse than you think. CNN Politics. NSA watchdog finds concerns with searches of Americans' communications. Huh. Interesting. So they say here, the National Security Agency failed to follow both court-approved and internal procedures designed to prevent officials from using a controversial foreign surveillance law to inappropriately monitor Americans' communications, the NSA Inspector General found in a semi-annual report released on Monday. Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, allows the U.S. government, to collect communications, such as emails and phone records, of foreigners on foreign soil without warrants. But while it broadly prohibits the intelligence community and law enforcement from targeting U.S. persons, there is a loophole that allows the NSA and CIA to query 702 gathered information for Americans' records if a query is reasonably likely to return foreign intelligence information. Still, those searches are governed by a set of internal rules and procedures designed to protect Americans' privacy and civil liberties. The Inspector General revealed a number of concerns involving U.S. person identifiers used as query terms against FISA Section 702 data, according to the report. So, the NSA is like, well, we're not allowed to look at American stuff. But if a query is reasonably likely to return foreign intelligence information, well, then we can look at American stuff. Yeah, but you're just going to use that loophole for everything. You're just going to say, I don't know, maybe it's likely if we look at this American, maybe we'll get some foreign thing out of it. You could just lie about that. And there's no standards. There's no guardrails here. By the way, so you have this report, which is supposed to hold these guys accountable. It's like, okay, here's the report. They're not being held accountable. Anyway, moving on. Wait, I thought you guys were going to hold them accountable. So what's going to happen? You're telling me there's wrongdoing. Are you going to stop the wrongdoing? They go on to be like, well, they kind of give us their word that they're not going to do bad stuff. So, okay. What? Who can take these people at their word? Guys, this is a brazen violation of your Fourth Amendment protection from unreasonable search and seizure. This is unconstitutional. This is against the ultimate law of the land. So it's even worse than you think. Even when we have some guardrails put into place, even when the courts, a number of courts have said, yeah, you got to stop spying on Americans without a warrant. You can't do that. They're like, cool. So we have a rule that we can't spy on Americans, but there's a loophole where if we think maybe that an American is tied to a foreign person, then we can spy on them. So we're just going to invoke that all the time. Well, then we've had the ruling. We know you're in the wrong. We know it's illegal. We know it's unconstitutional, and you do it anyway. It's time to lock people up. It's time to put them in prison. We cannot have this. And look, I don't care who you are, but if you're on the left, you care about civil liberties. If you're on the right, you say you care about the Constitution, and that's your most important thing. Well, they are violating the Constitution in no uncertain terms. None. I went back and went through the catalog of NSA stories that I've covered over the years on this show. And there's so much stuff. The NSA spied on World of Warcraft and Xbox Live. I don't know what they thought they were getting. I'm sure they didn't get anything, but they were spying on that stuff. They spied on Angry Birds. I don't even know there was a communication possibility in Angry Birds. They spied on Congress. They didn't even really deny it when they were pressed on it. The worst one, perhaps, is they spied on their love interests. And it was so common that they had a term for it. They called it Love Int, which was short for love intelligence. This is what we know they did. And by the way, a lot of this stuff we know because of Edward Snowden and Glenn Greenwald going back in the day when that stuff was released. Obama, on his way out the door, beefed up NSA spying. Trump, when he was in office, beefed it up even more and put it on steroids. Under Trump, they collected over 500 million phone calls of Americans. So the Democrats and the Republicans are both violating your constitutional rights. The NSA deleted incriminating evidence of their illegal spying when they were caught red-handed. They also spied on the Pope. They spied on world leaders. I think that the head of Germany or the head of France or both. They spied on people's porn habits. So in other words, the last thing that they should ever spy on, and certainly don't have a right to do, and has nothing to do with terrorism, they spy on it. They got records on you. They originally said, look, this is just for terrorism. That's all we're doing all the spying for. Then eventually the goalpost moved. well, terrorism and maybe some domestic crimes a little bit sprinkled in here and there. Even one of the authors of the Patriot Act, I think his name is Sensenbrenner, last name was Sensenbrenner. He was like, I didn't have this in mind when I wrote this thing. What are you doing? This wasn't the intent of it. And they're like, well, I don't know, terrorism's bad, crimes are bad, so we're just going to spy. We're just going to spy. Back up office. They had an audit years back. In 1 year alone, there were 2,776 violations from the NSA. These are rogue government agencies totally out of control. Whether it's the NSA or the CIA or the FBI, you do not trust these people. They're not looking out for your best interest. And as they pretend like they're the law and order people upholding the law, they are violating the law on a routine basis. Now, my guess is, even talking about this NSA thing, and it's sad, it's a sad reality, on top of the algorithm not pumping it out, of course, but you're also going to have just genuinely not as much interest in a story like this because everybody's like, yeah, I know they're spying on us. What are you going to do? And that's where we are now, with our civil liberties and with the Constitution and with our rights. Well, I kind of knew that was the case. It's like with income and wealth inequality stories, I'll come across some amazing new fact. Look at how bad it is. And I'll do a segment on it, and it'll get like half the views of some other segment. Why? Because, unfortunately, we're all so mega cucked that we're like, yeah, I know. It's as bad as can ever be bad, and I can't even make up a statistic that would be worse than the reality of the income and wealth inequality we have. So what are you going to do? So that's where we are. Dismantle it. Get rid of the NSA. You want to do police work? Do standard old school police work. Get a fucking warrant and go about it the right way. But you got to reel them in because they are the criminals, that's for sure. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.